Welcome to another episode of Two Drink Maximum. I'm your host, Shane Byerly.
I'm your other host, Chase Baxter. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us indeed. We've got a fun family edition.
We do. It is a fun family
Two Drink Maximum.
Fun family edition.
Yeah, family and fun, they usually go together. Our guest today is Daniel Fissmer, who, let's just not even bury the lead, is my cousin, but he is also a man of mystery and also all sorts of fun adventures, and I can't wait to get into it.
All kinds of stuff. Sounds like you're all over the place.
Yes, indeed. Well, as we usually do on the start of the show, let's start with Daniel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, so good to have you here. What are we drinking today, man? What are we drinking?
So we are drinking an old fashioned, which I think, Shane, you introduced me to
It's
a
possible.
long time ago. And
When I was 21, for the record, Mom. if you're
sure.
Of course. No one has ever had a drink when they're
Not one
underage.
single time.
No.
But yeah, I think you introduced me to those a while ago, and they always remind me of our history and our past. So
Oh,
We
cheers,
have
my
plenty.
friends.
So cheers. Let's enjoy.
cheers.
Goes down smooth.
Do you have, I
always.
mean, is this the same thing where you like do the sippy noise?
Sippy noise? I
whiskey.
mean, you can make a sippy noise with an old fashioned if you'd like. Yeah, it's fine.
I feel extra classy.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rules against sipping or making a sippy noise. You just can't drink an old fashioned out of a straw. Those are against the rules.
That's the rule.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. So speaking of old fashions and us doing things together, one of the memories that I hold dear in my heart is you were probably, younger than I was, and I came to visit because you grew up in Virginia.
Yep.
And I had, at that point in my life, I had gotten into skateboarding. I was there. You were hanging out with some of your friends. I taught you how to do a kickflip. You then summarily went on to be a professional skateboarder for a period of your life. I dropped it after a year or two, but I'm like, man, like I taught him one trick and then he turned it into a whole career for at least, a while. So
One kickflip to
Right?
rule them all. One kickflip to bind them.
yes,
Sounds like you're an amazing teacher.
for one trick. Yeah, I can teach you how to do a kickflip, Chase. We'll do
I
that on a
bet you
future.
couldn't.
Well, it's always funny. I don't know if you would know this now, but Shane was the cool, older, like punk cousin back then. No, seriously though,
I knew Shane when he was younger.
Well, so I would always see these pictures because I think we visited Texas once, and you'd see a picture of a Rancid poster on his wall.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
whoa, that's cool.
So edgy.
Yeah,
so
so
edgy. And, Shane has definitely influenced quite a bit in my life, from skateboarding to being and moving out here in California. And it's crazy how, one kickflip can lead down, a path of broken bones.
Yeah, that's obviously not the only thing you started with in your career. I mean, you graduated college, you did all these things, but I mean, as you kind of started to get out there after college, I mean, pro skateboarder was definitely one of the things that you first did.
Yeah, and it was really sort of by happenstance where I've always been a skateboarder, and in the skateboarding world, there's a whole plethora of types of skateboarding. You have vert, street, longboarding. If you're into basically
So vert, right, is like Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk, Danny Way. Street skateboarding is
Half pipe.
yeah, exactly. That's vert. Street skateboarding is, you're doing big stair sets, ledges, anything in the city.
Right.
And then you have, outliers like Rodney Mullen, who it's just like he's doing his own thing, which is so cool. And then you have longboarding, which has two sort of big sects, which is like longboard dancing, then longboard freestyle, which is bombing hills, doing slides, and then racing. And I was sort of in just all-encompassing longboarding, which I got into by happenstance. I think my friend Dustin Hampton, this guy who was sponsored by Loaded Boards, Orangutan Wheels, we came out to California, and there's a very famous road, not to be spoken of by name, but I'll call it the Fish. My longboarders will appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there's a famous road
Google
in
it,
Malibu,
folks.
which is a one-way road, and you're bombing down this hill in California, in Malibu at 40, 45 miles an hour. And
My God.
Sounds super safe.
My mom loved
at
that.
all.
She definitely loved that. She was like, I'm so comfortable with you downhill skateboarding.
Yeah.
But basically, my friends, we came out here when we were 18. We hiked up this hill because we had no idea what to do or how to get there except hike it. And then my friends came bombing out the bottom, and future friends, these guys we had seen on YouTube, and we're just thinking, oh my gosh, you know, these are our heroes. It was Kyle Chin and Dustin Hampton. And they're like, hey, you guys are pretty great skateboarders. Why don't you come with us? We rode with them for the day. And then like months later, I think it was the next summer, I came out here again. They're like, hey, you're a pretty good skateboarder. Do you want to be sponsored by us and, you know, go on tour and get paid to do photos? And it's not, you know, Shane makes it sound very glamorous. We're getting paid. We are getting paid, but it is like
it was
minimum
glamorous.
wage.
You got paid to travel the world. I'm just saying. Like,
we did get paid, and I always.
But I'm certain a big half of that was always like, you're promoting this brand.
100%. I mean, but to a 21-year-old kid, you're getting free product, free skateboarding. You are getting paid. It is putting some food on the table, and you know, I cherish those memories so much because I cannot tell you. We were living in a 2-bedroom house in Inglewood, 4 skateboarders. I had a mattress on the floor, and all we would do was skateboard every single day at a skate park or in Malibu, and I was making no money. And I can certainly say those were some of the happiest and easiest days of my life. We're like, we have no money, but my rent is $200.
Yeah, exactly. I can make $200 in an afternoon, so I'm good for the month. Yeah, that's, you want to talk about Rancid posters? That's punk rock right there.
That is punk rock.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you too. Like, downhill skateboarding is. I don't do it as much anymore. It's been a while, but it is one of those things where you can kind of just do like a bicycle.
Pick it right back up.
I mean, this one time.
I mean, just gravity, huh?
It's like it's so fun. But one of the stories that I always love about downhill skateboarding is, you know, a question I always get is like, well, how fast did you go? And you're like, well, let me tell you. So the fastest I ever went was with this 2 friends, 3 friends actually. But one was my friend Patrick Switzer, who was like, at one point, the fastest guy in the world, and it was always in the top 5. And by that, I mean, you know, racing-wise. So he was always getting first place in races, and there was always like 5 guys in that circuit, right? Always doing really great. But I'm with him in on the border of Canada and Washington, and this guy who's 56 years old at the time, Tad Drysdale, he's like the short, squat man. And he's like, hey, you boys want to go bomb some hills today? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
What
and
up, Tad?
Whatever you got, old timer.
We
Let's
get
go.
to this hill, and we drive up this mountain pass, and I'm looking at this hill like, you know, I've gone, I think, 55 or 60 at that point.
Yeah.
And it's really scary to go 60 miles an hour on a plank of wood with a couple screws. We get to the top of this hill, and Tad is like, are you ready to go really fast? And I'm like, what's really fast? He's like, you're about to go 70 miles an hour. Yeah. And my stomach just kind of drops because 50 to 55 is it's doable. Like it feels normal. 60 miles an hour plus any mile an hour after that feels increasingly like every mile an hour is 20 miles an hour. So we bomb this hill, and I'm just following him. I get in Tad's draft. I fly past him, and my friend Patrick is leading the way. And I just remember going down that hill thinking, don't die.
No.
Like, just don't.
Just stay standing.
And I can't tell you how it is fun, but it's not hee ha ha, I'm having a good time. It's like, this is exhilarating as seeing the white light.
Yeah. I'm brushing up with existential crisis here.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to how everybody describes skydiving.
Yes.
Horrifying and intense while you're going up. But once you're on the ground, it's the greatest experience you've ever had in your life.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to my friend Sketchy Andy. I'm wearing actually his shirt.
Good friend name.
He does tandem base jumping in Moab.
jump.
And I can tell you, base jumping is very scary, but still, I think going on a longboard is scarier just because of
I was going to
Just
say,
the velocity.
gun to my head, I'll do base jumping over longboard.
Yeah, that's like you fall and pull a cord and hopefully land on your feet. But the longboarding down a hill, like if you take a tumble doing that,
you have leathers. We weren't wearing leathers at the time. So, and then of course my friend Patrick goes, you want to switch boards? And we switch boards, and he's like 30 pounds lighter than me. And so that means the bushings are a little bit more wobbly. And that's when I really thought, like,
I might not make this.
I might not make this one.
Yeah, because just to kind of paint a picture, you're wearing elbow pads, you're wearing knee pads, you're wearing very special gloves that have kind of like metallic discs so that you can lean down and
they're
touch
like
the
plastic
ground.
pucks. Basically.
And obviously, you're wearing like a helmet. Oh, I thought they were metal.
No. Well, I think there are some, but those create sparks.
They do that spark thing.
Yeah, but they're mostly this sort of plastic material.
I was gonna say that's badass. That's like the '80s, like Warriors. That's what it.
Yeah.
Hey, but you're wearing a helmet. But unless you're wearing like special leather stuff, like if you fall and you scrape your back, that's just literally the shirt on your back going 60 miles an hour on pavement. Like Like, I mean,
and at that speed, it's like just falling into a cheese grater. Like, it's going to tear everything away.
Is there any injury that you've had while doing that wasn't completely gnarly? Like, was it like, do you ever just get up and walk it off? Is that even possible at that speed?
Yeah, I mean, there's a hill in Malibu I fell going 50 miles an hour because I turned my trucks, I tightened them the wrong way. So I ended up loosening them 2 full turns, and I fell. I Supermaned off. I only had knee pads and gloves on, and basically there is a way to fall. Like there is a method to the madness, and you basically pop your hands up, slide on the pucks, slide on your feet, and I fell at 50 miles an hour. I don't think I had a scratch on my knee, but I was wearing knee pads. So, I mean, considerably lucky for I never had really any serious injuries from going fast.
Yeah.
All the injuries were much more geared towards like street skating, when you're slamming, or when I'm doing like big drops, which I used to.
Trying to grind a rail,
Yeah, I mean, just the slams. That the worst injury I had was I injured my heel trying to jump off a 10-foot rock.
Your heel? What did you do to your heel? How does one injure a heel?
You know, it's so funny because it's such a small spot, but I basically fell from 10 feet and landed with an unbent leg, so completely straight up and down. And it just squashed my heel pad, and it took 9 months to heal. And that was I couldn't walk regularly for 2.5 to 3 months. So the downhill skateboarding is obviously, you know, it can be very dangerous, and a lot of people have been hurt, but there is a sense of if you try to stay in control and I did a couple of the races. I think I did 5 or 6 races in Canada, but you know, most of my stuff was always just with friends filming, and the races are when you're trying to corner and edge somebody out, and you have a 4-person pile up and a board goes into your back. That's when you're gonna get,
and it becomes rollerball.
I mean, it is basically
really
rollerball.
Does,
yeah, because that last turn, if you're looking for first place, you're gonna try to cut inside, and just like NASCAR, well,
bumping is racing. Bumping is racing.
I feel like the responsible thing to do is just to mention a few safety tips here, because I feel like people are going to look you up on YouTube. They're going to find your clips. Like, because professional skateboarding wise, you went by the Fizz.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what, like, so if you Google like the Fizz Pro Longboarder, people will find clips.
Yeah.
But the
do not do this. But do not try this, anyone.
It's a same disclaimer as the jackass thing. Like Daniel was literally a professional. Don't try this at home. But if you are trying to learn whatever, and you go up to a hill, you have to have people at the bottom. Yes, like watching traffic, watching kind of whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing is, it's one of those things where I will tell you, do not ever try this. And the only type of person who I would recommend this to is the person who says, fuck you, I'm going to do this anyway. 15 times, you know, like, please do not do this. I would not recommend anybody's kids to do this, but it's a kind of like a desire for Travis Pastrana, like, I'm going to do backflips on motorcycles and nobody's going to stop me. Right. But if you do want to get into longboard sliding, just find a neighborhood hill with a cul-de-sac, get the gloves, always wear a helmet. Always, like with downhill skateboarding, it's not like street skateboarding where you can get away. Not that I recommend it with wearing a helmet, but with downhill skateboarding, because you are always going anywhere 15 miles an hour plus, you have to wear a helmet. Like it is so unsafe. So yeah, find a local neighborhood hill, get the gloves, you know, get the wheels, have a good time. But you know, most people are not going to try mountain roads, and I highly suggest not
to not do that. Yeah.
To not do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, the watching the videos of you is just jaw dropping because it looks so dangerous, but at the same time, it does look like you're having fun.
I mean, like I said, those are some of the most.
What's the perfect downhill tune to jam to? Or you got to have your ears available for the road.
Yeah. Can you listen to?
You can't. I would definitely say most of the time not, but there's a few times where you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with this road. I'll do it. You know, I always liked something, either some like really fun, funky rock, or maybe some old school hip hop. Like you could go with like Beck. I remember like Summer Girl. We did a video with that, or like Jurassic 5, and you just something to get you, you know, some fun beats. Never techno for me, too much. Something kind of to actually sort of calm you down and put you in a rhythm. Like that's really what it comes, like a driving bass where it gets you in the mode, but not, you know, not crazy energy like drum and bass or dubstep. Like that's
Nothing's gonna make you want to bob up and down on the board.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing that's like nothing. No Rage Against the Machine that's gonna make you pump your fist while you're going and like ruin your.
Wait, I need to be protesting right now.
Chase, did you ever get it? Because I mean, obviously, I got into skateboarding when we've known each other for a long time. Did you like what was your attempt with skateboarding?
My attempt with skateboarding probably lasted about 15 to 25 minutes.
You put up a good front though.
I had a skateboard, and I was.
Was I there?
No, I did this quietly on my own.
Okay.
Because I was.
Shane, you were a bad friend.
It was
you
in
taught
my
me
backyard.
to kickflip and not your best friend growing up. This is a bad best friend.
No, I wanted to, skateboarding was always really cool, and I was never great at it because I wasn't like incredibly coordinated as far as like standing on a board with wheels. Turns out I wasn't very good at it. And I was like a little top heavy because I was a bigger kid. So if my momentum got in any other wrong direction, the board was just like gone immediately. So I spent one afternoon at a park trying to learn just how to like stand on the thing. And I probably spent 2.5 hours just standing on it for 5 seconds and falling. And after like the 47th time, I was like, you know what? I don't think I enjoy skateboarding that much. I'm probably going to call it with this.
It has a brutal learning curve. Like more than any other sport, I mean, for me, it was kind of an escape because there was just, I think, things in my childhood was like, I need to get away from this, you know, and it's one of those sports where the learning curve is so bad, you have to do 1,000 ollies to get a centimeter off the ground. To learn a kickflip, it's like swimming, you know, you take a week of classes and you're great. Skateboarding, you got to do months before you get anywhere.
Yeah.
And it is a hard sport to learn.
And anything in that extreme sports category, right, whether it's skateboarding, snowboarding, whatever, it's in that category where in order to get good at it, you have to, it's not going to happen. You are going to get hurt. Like in order to get good at it, you are going to get injured in one way or another. And that's a fact. There's no way around that. So you got to just wakeboarding, like anything, like when you're getting tugged behind a boat, right? Yeah. It's oof, God, it's the pits. But I mean, it's incredible, dude. And I'm so proud of you that you were able to do that for so long. And like one of these days, like we'll find like a 1 degree incline and I'll grab one of your extra longboards and we'll go together. Yeah.
And for me, we can go to the airport and I'll just stand on one of those people movers.
There we go.
Completely flat. And I'll feel like I've done it.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Remember that video game? I mean, I'm sure it's still around, but there was a video game that was like, it had a massive screen and you stood on a skateboard. And it was like on a rocker, and you could slide the skateboard. I think it was called Top Skater,
maybe.
But it was an actual size skateboard, so it was like the closest you could get to feeling like you were skateboarding without actually being on one. Yeah. And it did have handrails, Chase, so you'd have been fine. Yeah.
Look at me, I'm skating.
Yeah.
So, how long were you a professional skater, and what eventually moved you away from it?
I think it was, you know, I got sponsored by. Shout out to my homies, my peeps from Loaded Boards and Orangutan Wheels. They are still family and were my family for a good portion of 5 years. I think I got sponsored when I was, in freshman year of college. So maybe sophomore year of college, and then around age 20, and then I think I started to sort of peter off at. Maybe somewhere around age 26. So basically from age 20 to 26, the peak of it all was when we sort of went on tour to Europe and we were teaching kids at these longboard workshops and just, I mean, bombing hills in Germany, France, Spain, like it would. That's when it felt like, oh my gosh,
the best bomb since World War II.
That's definitely what they say. That was our slogan for our
when Daniel,
got to be somebody's slogan.
When Daniel showed back up in France, it was D-Day 2, baby.
Yeah, they were like, you cannot. I was like, never mind. I'm not gonna go there. Redacted. But I think around 26, it just sort of. For me, I my interest started to wander into different realms and categories. I've always been an actor and a writer and a filmmaker, but I think around 25 or 26, it started to dawn upon me like I need to take my craft more seriously. Where it's not like I had not taken it seriously before when I was, that's all I was doing. I was going out for auditions, writing sketches, and skateboarding. But 50% of my life, if not more at the time, was skateboarding. And then around 25, I think that was around the time we started our production company, really a couple years before, but around 25, it was like, okay, we need to really start making short films and writing and taking things more seriously. And you want a career where, there is a life, there's a cap on any professional sport. For other sports, it's longer. For skateboarding,
oh, well, dude, I was going to say.
I don't know. I know Tony Hawk.
I was going to, but the thing is, I was going to ask you, what's the cap? And then you came up with that 56-year-old. I'm like, well, theoretically.
For downhill skateboarding, you can always do it as a hobby. And Tony Hawk always amazes me. The fact that he was doing stuff into his 40s. He did
He's still doing it, and
he
he's
did
50.
a 900 when he was 49 or something, and it was just mind blowing because I'm 28 and I'm just thinking, my bones. And if you look at him or Danny Way, the amount of surgeries and stuff they had, I don't know how they just keep going. It's either freak genetics, a large amount of money, or Scientology.
Or it's one or the other, right?
Or all three.
Yeah. So, okay. So you mentioned your production company. Is that synonymous then with, is that Kid Cactus? Is that what you're talking
that
about?
is Kid Cactus.
So around the time that you start to transition out of skateboarding, you start a comedy troupe, essentially. Yeah. I mean, production company as well, but it's a comedy troupe. Mm-hmm. So 4 dudes.
Yep.
You're one of them. Walk me through, how did that start, and kind of how does it go from, hey, I think, you're fun, because there's 4 people in this room, right? How does it go from, you're funny, I think you're funny, I think we're all funny, and then we should do things together? How does that
It was
start?
It was easy for us because I have known 2 of my partners, Jared Kopsiak and Danny Cullen, since middle school. I've known Jared the longest. We did high school theater together. All of our projects for history class were, hey, Mr. McCallum, instead of this essay, can we do a video?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
also guilty of that for all of my life.
Yeah.
And
it's the greatest thing ever to convince a teacher, like, let me make a video.
I'm gonna make a short film, and now my parents can't get mad that I'm using the VHS
exactly.
recorder. Yeah.
And so we in high school, we had been around freshman year, we had been making sketches. We grew up on the big influences for us, sketch comedy wise, were The Lonely Island, Andy Samberg,
Sure.
and Derek Comedy, Childish Gambino, and his guys. So we grew up on just consuming all of their sketches, and we had been doing this all throughout high school. We all went to different colleges. Jared and Danny went to the same, but I would fly out to Colorado for Jared's thesis film, like some film noir piece. You would love that, Shane.
Yeah.
It was, Shane loves film noir, anybody listening. And
I do. I'm a junkie. It's true.
Yep. And basically, we'd all been supporting each other in our various crafts. Mm-hmm. And so I had moved out first. Jared and Danny sort of moved out here a year later. And then basically a year into living together. So we did start it earlier than 25. It was around 22 or 23. And we just started shooting stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I think a year after that, Jared and Danny they said, hey, we should form a company. And they came up with the Kid Cactus name, and they're like, do you want to start it with us?
Why Kid Cactus?
I should know that.
You don't know that?
Should probably.
That was like on my list of questions, and we're related.
I should probably. I think.
Just the alliteration?
What? Okay, here's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's because we always. Yes, okay, I do remember. But
look at him trying to save himself.
I'm flounder here.
It's coming to me now.
I've had time to think of an answer now.
Yeah.
I think Jared and Danny, one of them had come up with the name, and the idea was a cactus is kind of prickly, and so our comedy is definitely a little prickly. It can be off the wall. It's absurdist comedy a lot of the times, and then we always wanted it to feel like a kid show on acid. So it's like prickly comedy, kid show on acid.
I've never heard you say that out loud, and now that you've said it, I'm like, hey, yeah, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, that was the origin of Kid Cactus, and basically since then we've just been making a ton of projects. We've done about 15 short films.
Nice.
We did a musical in San Francisco, which was really fun, at Sketchfest, and then we just sold our first feature, which was a big deal for us, and we're super excited to get that out. Shane has graciously helped us in the QC process, the quality control, with
using a little bit of my knowledge to get you through the process.
a lot of it.
Sure. Yeah.
So
we're good. Yeah, we're good. So I mean, obviously I've seen. I don't think Chase you have. I can get you a copy. It's very good. So. I mean, just to tease it a little bit, but where can people see it? I mean, it's got to be coming soonish, right?
Yeah, we don't know is the question.
Oh, okay. Our
distributor is figuring that out because we are not done with the QC process. So next time I'm on, hopefully it'll be on Hulu, Netflix, or you can download it on Amazon somewhere or Apple iTunes, probably one or all of them. So... yeah, we're really excited, and it's with Good Deed Entertainment. They were the distributor for Loving Vincent. It was that
it's a great film too.
Cool Vincent Van Gogh movie a couple years ago that was up for. Okay. It was up for, I think, Best Animated Feature for an Academy Award, and it's a really cool animation style about Vincent Van Gogh's life. The animation is done in the style of his artwork.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's very dreamlike, very fluid.
He's underselling it a little bit. The movie took 7 years to make.
Oh.
They filmed it on green screen. The whole thing is green screen. Mm-hmm. Then there was a team of hundreds of artists who hand painted every frame, 24 frames a second.
That's amazing.
They hand painted every frame. And so every single frame in the movie is a hand painted like Vincent Van Gogh style.
It's a painting.
Yeah, it's incredible. The movie is jaw dropping. It is a feat of cinema for sure. So you're in good hands there.
And then they bought our movie, so they're fucking up.
Yeah. It's a huge step down. Yeah, they've made a huge mistake.
We may have set the bar a little too high for ourselves.
Yeah. One of the funniest
Let's
things,
find a comedy troupe and knock it back a little.
Yeah. I mean, one of the funniest things about your movie, though, is that at least twice, and I won't ruin any surprises, but at least twice in the movie, I'm watching it for the first time, and I've just forgotten that, we've known each other for so long, and we've kind of cross-pollinated friends at this point, that there's 2 points in the movie where I'm like, oh, that's a friend of mine. I didn't even know Daniel knew that person. And then it's like, oh, he's in the movie too. And it's like, they've just met, whatever, they cross-pollinate. It's so fun. You're kind of the king, at least in my life. You're kind of the king of I'll be watching TV with my wife, and then all of a sudden your face pops up on another commercial or something. I'm like, oh, there he is on TV again. So, yeah.
Yeah, you probably the funniest thing for Shane is one of his friends who's probably watching and goes, is that my friend in a gimp mask?
Yeah.
I think I recognize that body. Yeah. I can't see the face, so I can't be sure.
It would, Jason, it would be like if you're watching Pulp Fiction, and all of a sudden it gets to the gimp scene, and you're like, is that Shane? That's a weird, unsettling. Yeah. You just can't believe it for a few minutes. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. Shout out to Joshua for that one.
Yeah. He's a good.
He's a
dude.
Trooper.
Yeah. So, I mean, What Is Art is the name of the feature. It's coming out soon enough. But I mean, so check back in on that, and we'll promote it when it hits. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you want to tease a little bit? That's what's next for Kid? I mean, because for you guys, What Is Art is done. It's coming, but it's you're done. So what are the next things that you're developing with Kid Cactus?
We are in development we're trying to figure out what our next feature is going to be, because this feature is an amalgamation. It is an anthology of 6 shorts. So it's an anthology of 6 shorts with an animated through line, and it is atypical, I would say, in that sense. It's like this movie Wild Tales, which is one of my favorites. That came out 6 years ago, up for best, I think, foreign feature, and it's just 6 tales of revenge. It's a really cool thing. So we kind of took it in.
Tarantino approves.
He does.
No, right.
It's a super. I would highly recommend it to anybody. It's an Argentinian film, and we sort of went that direction where we linked all of these shorts together. So our next project, we are in development for a more narrative feature. And we're in the writing room right now, and so we're a democracy, and we're basically pitching ideas, and we'll see how that goes.
How does that work? I've always been kind of curious about that. And again, no names, no pointing fingers, but it's like there's 4 of you. Mm-hmm. Not every idea is a winner, as you know. So what is that like when you're 2 sides of the coin? What is that like when you're in the room and someone pitches an idea and you're like, oof, that's not it's not working for me. I don't like it. And alternatively, what's it like when you're in the room and you're pitching and you're like, I can see their faces. This is not landing. This is not. They're not connecting with
that's
this.
the beauty of the room.
Yeah,
that truly is the beauty of the room, because you can't take back first reactions. Mm-hmm. Like that.
You really can't.
You really can't. And what I have found really beautiful and fun with Kid Cactus is that we have really grown together as artists, because we've been together, I think, for 8 years now, and creating art is very difficult alone. It's even harder to do it with friends and coworkers, because it's art. You are sensitive, you are passionate about something, and so when an idea doesn't work out, it hurts. And I think there was a lot of growing pains in the first couple years of the company, because we're young artists and you have your ego get in the way, and you're like, it is a good idea, but they might not like it. And
you can't see it.
It's the best thing ever. And so there were a lot of growing pains, and the Pixar guys sort of talk about this, where it takes about 10 years to become fluid with each other. And I can totally understand why now. You can only understand through process. And at the beginning, it was ego for a lot of us. Like, no, this is so funny. You're just not seeing my perspective. Where now, we would argue a lot more back in the day, but now it is, what are the first reactions? If something is so funny and we're all just dying laughing, like, that is a good idea. We have to follow the energy. We have to
hold on to this, right?
Hold on, reel that in. The fish, the fish that are big now, and so reel that in. It really is. Kid Cactus is a democracy in so many aspects of it, where we all really have to be on board for it. Even if there's one of us, and I have been that guy before, where I'm just not connecting with it. And I think the thing to realize as artists is, that's okay. Mm-hmm. The friends I respect the most in art are the ones who say, hey man, I really like this, but I'm not in that headspace because I don't want to be doing a horror movie. That's not the headspace I want right now. Or I don't want to be doing comedy. I'm doing a drama right now. And we've had directors say that, hey, I love this, but I'm more in this dramatic area of my life right now. And that doesn't match up with my portfolio. So it sucks when you pitch an idea and you think it's funny,
and it's just
crickets, and you're just thinking to yourself,
all right,
where did I go wrong? Where did I sit? And then at the other,
that's a
fine.
But at the other end of the spectrum, we have definitely gotten a lot better. We're like, hey, I just don't find this funny, and I can tell you X, Y, and Z now. Mm-hmm. Where before we might say, yeah, it's funny. Question mark.
Question. Dot.
Yeah. But now we are really good about saying, hey, I just don't think that's funny, and here's why. Mm-hmm. But
I guess you've had to work to cultivate that reaction inside your writer's room, because it's tough to get a room that will actually answer.
Yes.
Depending on the dynamics.
The truth in film and working in art is so hard to get, and that's why I do respect Shane a lot, because even though he's my family, he's always given it to me straight. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, I think this is good, but it's not my cup of tea, and here's why. Or, hey, you did this great, and I'm not bullshitting you because you're my family. You did this really well. Or you did this really bad, and here's how I think. So the truth is a hard thing to get from people, and the more you can cultivate that in your writer's room, the better the projects are going to be. Like, for one example, we had one of our writers write in one of the sketches, at the end of a sketch, he just wrote this joke, and he goes, and XXX shits everywhere, XXX blah, blah, blah. Also, this is just a joke. I'm not seriously writing this. And everybody just died laughing. Right? Yeah. We have to put this in now.
Now it's part of it.
This is now part of it.
Yeah.
And it's those moments where you just know you're finding gold.
Yeah.
And then and that's the other thing too. It's the same thing when we're writing. And our writing process, you you have to pitch 25 bad jokes to get one good one.
Yeah.
That's just the process. And I think, as you grow older, you realize as an artist, you have to fail so much more than you succeed. And that's why so many people quit. But failure is a beautiful process.
In order to be in the creative world, you have to be willing to hear no 99 times to hear that yes the 100th time.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of being brutally honest about not being funny, you know what is not funny? Empty glasses.
Finding gold. I've found the bottom of my glass.
There you go. Exactly. All right. We're going to take a short break. We're going to make our refill, and we will be back in just a moment. Chase and I might be new to the podcast game, but we do know enough that the best podcast should be recorded in an environment that really kind of spurs your creativity. And we're lucky enough to record our podcast in the Muse rooms, which is a creative co-working shared space that we are proud to have as a sponsor, and we could not be more excited.
Yeah, you can check out the Muse rooms online to learn more about their services and the spaces they have here. Lots of really great stuff. That is themuserooms.com. That's M-U-S-E for Muse. You can also check them out on Instagram at the Muse Rooms. But have a look at it. There's tons of great amenities. It's a really wonderful environment, like you said, and it just goes a long way in making our show amazing.
Agreed. We couldn't be happier, and we think you might be too. So please check out the Muse Rooms, and we will see you there.
Yeah, and now for part 2. Welcome back. We're here with Daniel Fissmer. We've been talking about acting and longboarding. You do a lot of things. In addition to all these things we've already spoken of, you also do tutoring. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that actually started with... That all comes down to my mom. My mom's an amazing woman. She's so gracious, and she
Shout out to Aunt Tanuel.
That's right. Shout out to Tanuel. I think if you Google Tanuel,
okay,
I don't know if you'll ever find another. I've never heard of that name. So it's Tanuel. I just think it's the coolest name. And
you're putting your mom on blast.
Yo, what's up, mama?
Google my mother.
I'm disappointed to learn that her first name is not Aunt Tanya.
And her middle name is LaRue. I mean, you can't get a cool... she should be an actress.
Name.
Her name alone will just draw box office.
That is a super cool name, absolutely.
So it all comes down to her. She worked in public education. Okay. She just retired, actually, after 30 years. And in college... I don't know why, but in Virginia, if you have 60 credits in a college, you can be a substitute teacher. So you are maybe 19 years old and you can teach.
And it's just 60 credits? It doesn't
just
matter
60
what?
credits. It doesn't matter what. You can substitute teach.
I'm sensing a plot here.
18-year-old kids. That's ludicrous to me. So, but it was a good gig at the time, and my mom said...
When was the last time you actually interacted with an 18-year-old? They're fairly dumb. You can teach them a lot of things.
That is true. But also, you're also 20. You're also 1 year removed that dumb.
True. Yeah, very true.
2 years removed. But a couple years ago, about 3 or 4 years, 4 years ago, maybe 5, I don't know. Time is an illusion. But 5 years ago, my friend said, "Hey, I work with I work with kids. I have this gig. I think you'd be really great at it." Just we'd been talking about our college experience and just all the stuff we enjoy doing. And he goes, it's X amount of hours per week. It's a part-time gig, and I think you'd be really great. The rate's awesome. And I said, you know what? I definitely would love another gig because as an actor and a filmmaker, you have about 18 gigs in any given week. So, the rate was too good to deny, and they
don't all make ends meet, so you do have to...
No, exactly. And especially with acting, you'll do a commercial, and it'll pay the bill for a couple of months, but you should always supplement your income and, not depend... Because you don't know when your next gig is. You just don't. Yeah. My friend got me this gig, and... my mom specifically for about 10 or 15 years, most of her career had worked in special education. So a lot of the times I would sort of go under her guidance and under her care and work with a lot of special education kids, special needs kids with different IEPs, which in education, that is just individualized education profile. And so I had gained a good amount of experience through her taking me under her wing, and a lot of the kids that I worked with through my friend's gig, they happened to be neurodiverse, which neurodiverse is just anybody out there. It's a term used by mental health advocates to classify individuals with neurological differences such as autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, and anything else like that in a more positive and strength-focused context. So that's where my specialty started to come in, and I started to gain a bunch of clients with that. And the really fun thing about tutoring for me is a big thing that I always have incorporated with tutoring is you do all the schoolwork. That's the base stuff. But the big thing for me is when you're tutoring anyone, I use it's called Montessori style approach. And Montessori style approach is basically, I can teach you math, right? I can teach you math through any medium. So I can teach you math through photography. I can teach you math through history. I can teach you math in any sort of style. But the Montessori approach sort of, we are learning things through play so that you are really engaged with what you're doing. So if I'm learning, if a kid says, I want to learn math, well, but I love photography and I love photography. Okay, well, let's start talking shutter speeds and let's start talking ISO, exposure, and we can say, okay, if the difference is between f2.8 and 3.6, what's the difference? It's whatever. And so I found a lot of just positive feedback from using that methodology and using things that kids love to learn. Because at the end of the day, are you going to have more fun learning math through photography or even skateboarding? Skateboarders going down a hill at 60 miles an hour. How long is it going to take? You're going to be more engaged, and I can interweave those things. We'll go outside and we'll physicalize it because that's the problem. A lot of kids with ADHD, they need to be moving. They need their attention to be constantly shifting between things, and it's hard for kids to be in classrooms. Yeah. I learned a lot of that through personal experience with working with kids because at the end of the day, you can read all the books you want in the world about any of these profiles, but every kid is individual with how they learn. And so you really have to just kind of go through the gauntlet of having real life experience. And my mom definitely helped me with that, and I'm so thankful for that. And so one of my favorite things with tutoring, though, is also as a filmmaker, as a tutor, I always am improving and learning things myself. So a big thing I do with my kids is I teach them all the school stuff, going back to what I was going to say earlier, and then I try to teach them an extracurricular skill that they just love and they want to do on their own, and they're learning something for fun. Because school is school, but a lot of kids, it's not their bread and butter. They're going to go on to be a mechanic.
Right.
And you don't need school for a mechanic. And I think there's a big shift in society right now, which I view as very positive, of not everybody has to go to college.
Right.
And some people, engineers, doctors, go to college. We need you. We love you. The society would not function without you. But the same for engineers, or sorry, not engineers, mechanics. Mechanics don't need to go to college. Why are you wasting 4 years going to college and then, getting an apprenticeship somewhere or a trade?
Right.
You need to go to trade school for X amount of time. And so I always try to give my kids a second skill that they can have. So one that I teach with a lot of them is video editing. I mean, video editing is huge right now, and you could get a job. We just saw this with the Oscars, Everything Everywhere at Once. Most of their editing team, which they just won an Oscar for, learned from YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that is so cool and beautiful. And so with my kids, I always teach them an extracurricular skill, and it's crazy. I'm teaching them editing, and then the next week I'll come in and they'll be like, hey, I learned this. And I'm like, did you know how to do this? And I'll go, yeah, I definitely did.
Of course.
Of course. But also,
do you see this hat that says teacher? Of course I knew how to do this. Yeah.
But it's so cool to see them be so engaged with certain things where they'll come back and they'll teach me something that, I'm not the best editor. I have a good understanding of it, but they'll find some little corner in the depths of Adobe and find some cool YouTube video. And then they'll say, I learned this, but I don't know how to do this that the guy did on YouTube. And I'll go, I think something good to tell the kids is say, I don't know how to do that, but let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
It's the process of learning, and it's not teaching kids facts about Columbus. It's teaching kids about the process of learning and learning to fall in love with learning.
Yes.
So that's what I do appreciate about tutoring, which has just been an awesome side gig and blessing that has helped me become a better artist.
And that is one of the most amazing things to teach somebody is the desire and want and ability to, like, if you want to learn a thing, you got to do a little bit of work, but you can go out and learn it yourself. Like, you have the ability. You just have to have the passion to go and do it. Like,
exactly.
A lot of people don't make that connection in life. They're like, well, I don't know how to do it, so I don't know how to do it.
And a lot of people think like they are innately bad at something. Like, I don't know how to edit, so I'll never be good at it. Or I just don't have that type of brain. And I do think that, yes, there are a lot of different types of brains that have different strengths and weaknesses for sure. But I also strongly think that with a lot of practice and a lot of just a lot of practice and time, anyone can become proficient in something. It will take longer for some people, and that's okay. But everybody can be a good musician. Is everybody going to be Elton John or Freddie Mercury? Some people just they just got it from the start. But you can be proficient, and that is just a really cool thing for kids to empower them. You know, kids are empowered when they think they can.
Right.
And that's so important.
Very much so. I think, and one of the coolest aspects that I know that you do from tutoring, especially with the neurodiverse kids, D&D is Dungeons and Dragons, for people who don't know, is very hot right now. It's been hot, I mean, for at least since Stranger Things kind of put it back on the map and made it.
Technically, it's been hot since like the 70s.
Well, but that's the point, is it hasn't been hot. It used to be dorky, right?
Well,
if you played it in the 80s and 90s, you were a dweeb.
And also the Satanic Panic, where it was, evil.
Right.
If you play that, you are worshiping demons and you're going to go to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is still true.
Yes, I mean, it probably still is. Yeah, I went there last week playing with my D&D group, and it was hot, to say the least. No, but look, Stranger Things, I think I'm not going to give it single-handed credit for putting it back on the map, but D&D is no longer the kind of taboo, like, oh, you're a dweeb if you play this. It's become, I mean, it's so hot that as we're recording, there is a D&D movie coming out very soon, starring Chris Pine from Paramount, it's probably going to do quite well for itself, right? And so it's like, it's kind of reached the forefront of culture at the moment. One of the things that you do in your tutoring that I think is so cool is that you run D&D. I mean, essentially you dungeon master, you DM for a lot of kids who are on the like neurodiverse. And from what I understand you telling me, it's like they really kind of start to come out of their shells, right? Especially for kids who are a little bit shy, a little bit maybe uncertain in a large social setting. Yeah. They start to come out and become themselves. And I mean, that just blows me away. I think that is so cool.
Yeah. And it all started with, it was pre-pandemic or around the pandemic. A lot of our clients were looking for something for their kids to get into. And the biggest thing with a lot of neurodiverse kids is social skills are really hard. It is hard to go up if we can all take a trip back to middle school real quick. Do you remember how awkward and weird you felt making a friend?
Every day.
Every single day. Yeah. And so stack on top of that, you're neurodiverse, so you might think a little bit differently, and social skills might be that much harder for you. So we were talking to one of our clients, and one of our clients said, hey, my son is interested in D&D. What do you think about that? And my business partner, Jared, who's also in the production company, we play D&D. We played D&D a long time, and it was sort of a revelation for us where, maybe we could use this as a tool to teach kids social skills, and then also use that Montessori style of education approach where we can teach them writing skills. And we had that inkling. We talked with my client who the mother was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. You guys should totally do this. She sort of came up with it with us, and we sort of did this test run, and I cannot tell you how blown away we were after 6 months to a year of playing, where these kids, they're coming in and their shoulders are hunched and they don't know how to really socialize with each other, and they're not quite friends yet. Yeah. And all of a sudden you put them in this low stakes environment because they're playing a character. So that's the big thing. If anybody doesn't know, for Dungeons and Dragons, it's a role playing game where you pick a character and you have powers and you play that character. So you're not playing yourself. You're always playing someone else. And it's a situation where you can mess up or do anything you want, and it's not you messing up, it's your character messing up. So it's so low stakes.
Yes.
And all of a sudden we can't get a word in edgewise now. At first, Jared and I played a character alongside, and Jared would Dungeon Master. And that was the first campaign. And I had to play a character because they didn't understand the social dynamics, and it was really hard for them to talk. A year later, we can't talk. They are like they're coming.
And I know. I mean, just knowing you for my whole life, you're such a ham, and I mean that in a good way.
Yes.
That like being in this
bona fide
room,
protein.
Yeah. That's like being in this room with these kids who are a little bit uncomfortable. You going full tilt of like doing a silly voice and like really like putting your shoulders into it and whatever. It's like after a week or two of that, it has to let their guard down. Where they're like, oh, he's being so silly that I can just do a 1 second silly thing and I'm in a safe environment. And the effect has to be profound.
It was so profound. I mean, I totally remember the first character. His name was Binky. And I was like,
Binky.
My name is Binky, and I want to sing a song for you. And all of a sudden I'm singing a song about cheese. And they're like, this adult is being silly and open. Now I can feel silly and open to express myself. And we knew it would be great for them, but we didn't know how great it would be them. All of a sudden, they're sending 5-page emails on the weekend about their character background. And 6 months after we had started, one of my students wrote a 50-page single-spaced Google Word doc, not size 16 font, not size 20, size 11, an entire campaign. And then a year later, every single one of them is dungeon mastering and leading the group with a section that they all wrote by themselves.
That's unbelievable.
It's if you can imagine like seeing any of these kids, if you saw your child and they're coming in and they're skulking in and their shoulders are rounded and they're speaking really quietly and then they don't know, and all of a sudden you see them and they are. And the wizard came up and he said, Zabadada!
He said, you shall not pass.
You shall not pass. It is amazing to see these kids grow into, because it's at this point, we've been playing Dungeons and Dragons with them for 5 years now, 4 or 5 years now. That's one of our main gigs. We do it every week, every Friday night. We play with neurodiverse kids, and they are so talented now. They're right. Some of them, they're going to grow up to be writers. Some of them are going to grow up to be writers, because I'm watching this like, oh my gosh, try to get your kid. Just go home and tell your kid to write 10 pages on the weekend.
On anything.
On anything. It's not going to happen. And they are doing this voluntarily. They're doing it with their friends. They have social skills now, and they found their tribe. And that's what's so cool about it. Like it's just a very rewarding and beautiful experience, because it's amazing to watch people transform like that. And Dungeons and Dragons is just a huge component in that. So got to give a shout out to Dungeons and Dragons. We love Dungeons and Dragons, and even before that, like, it's just fun to be a fucking wizard.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's so fun. Like I'm new to the D&D world. Like I started playing shortly before the pandemic. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, we're starting a campaign. You should join."
What was your character?
I was Thok the Gatekeeper. Thok the Gatekeeper, not a joke, dude.
Wait, Thok or thought?
Thok, like a knock on the door.
Okay, you're not a thought.
Like Thok.
just checking. I'm just
Thok
checking.
the Gatekeeper was a name that I came up with in high school, because you drew a picture of like, essentially imagine like jacked
You meaning
Shrek.
me.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Chase. Sorry, you can't see where I'm pointing. So Chase drew a picture of Chase, who's a very talented artist.
Thank you.
Drew a picture of he's quite skilled. He drew a picture of like a jacked Shrek, basically, like this green like ogre or whatever, but like looked like he could rip your head off.
Like he's hot. Like he's very.
I mean, very
beefy Shrek.
Like a beef
beefy
boy.
Shrek.
Yeah.
And we're
Big
we're in class.
Chef Shrek Boyardee.
And we're in class, and he handed me this paper, And I'm chuckling. I'm like, this is so cool.
I didn't know why I do that.
I don't even know why you handed it to me. And out of nowhere, it just hit me, and I just wrote "Thok the Gatekeeper" on top of it, and I handed it back, and he giggled, and I was like, "That's a cool." So when someone invited me to play D&D, I was like, "I have an idea for a character. Can we just make this work?" So I was like a half orc, half. I forget exactly what the specifics were.
Were you a barbarian?
Yes, half orc, half barbarian.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And it was awesome, man. Now, the group that I'm with hasn't played in a little while. We've been taking a couple months off, but now I'm in a campaign where we're in high school and we're all just playing versions of characters that we like from different shows. So my character's name is Fraser Krong, and I'm basically just a high school version of Fraser Crane. It's amazing. I love it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but D&D is so fun, and the thing is, like, I think that. The biggest hurdle that a lot of people have with D&D is that you think that there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things you got to learn. The God's honest truth is it's super duper simple. There's a dungeon master who does 95% of the work. They create all the environments. They lead you down a path, and then they're like, and you get to a door. What do you do?
Yeah,
and then at that point,
the dungeon master does all the work.
And then you turn it over to the group, and it's like, what are we doing, Chase? Like, are we opening the door? Are we not opening the door? And it's such a fun way to just relax and have fun. And I have to imagine that doing it with neurodiverse kids is like incredible to see. Yeah.
We've laughed so, I mean.
Yeah, I was going to, what's the most creative solution that they have created for a problem that you've
It blew you out of the water,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh, okay.
Because I imagine there's a lot of very interesting solutions coming out of groups like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There are so, man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Because those are pretty common stories inside D&D groups where a dungeon master will build a campaign or build some sort of like progression that they expect their players to walk through.
Yeah.
And then get hit with a massive curveball where they think of some solution or some question
Well,
where you're like, and you got to figure it out.
Okay, this is going to sound insane, as D&D always does, but I think one of the funniest times, so we had this 8-armed beast or something.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
and
Good
this is
Goro.
good for your kids. Let me tell you, this is great for your kids.
Yeah.
They chopped off all his arms.
All right.
So they chopped off this like 8
One at a time
arms.
or all?
I can't remember. One at like in battle, they're like, they chop his arms off and he's about to die. And then one of the kids was like, "We forgive you though, and we'll let you live. We'll let you live if I can adopt you as my son."
Oh my God. That's the sweetest thing I've ever
What
heard.
is going on?
We will teach you to be nice.
It's like
Suddenly as DM, you're like coming up with adoption papers. You're like, sign
yeah,
it.
this makes sense. And so it's the power of love, the power of empathy. It's always my favorite solutions in anything are when it goes outside the bounds of combat or even persuade. Like persuasion is interesting, but if you can do it in a way where you're turning the tables, like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to do adoption papers now. And we're a family. We're bound by law now.
Yeah.
That is always so fun to me. And even within battle, they'll do these just really creative solutions. And I think that's where within the neurodiverse community, it really allows your brain to function in a way where the possibilities are endless and there is a solution to everything. It's about how you think and what is your strength within your own style and methodology of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's where D&D just really, really shines. Because like you're saying, Shane, it has this sort of stigma in a sense where it's so, the stigma is like, oh, and plus 27 and I got to subtract 42 and I got to know rule subsection C 5-7.
And you're like, all right, pipe down, boomer.
And
Relax.
if you read the Dungeon Master's Guide, which you should, you don't have to be a good DM, but you should eventually, try to eventually, it says within the first 20 pages, just play. Just make up a rule if you don't know the rule. Because at the end of the day, it's about the experience with your friends and it's about the rules that you can agree upon. Yeah. And they even say that, change the rules.
Yeah.
Change them however you want. Yeah. Just try to follow the basic. The one rule you need to follow is it's about the players having fun.
Yeah.
And if you can agree on a subset of rules, that's fine. If you want to play it super technically, some people do. And I love that one of our students, he'll call us out. He'll say,
actually,
okay, yeah,
Excuse me?
I'm pretty sure he has an armor class of 22, and I rolled a half cover. So, like, Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. I didn't take that into account, and I love that because think about how his brain works.
You're like, thank you, Jared. I really appreciate it. We're trying to do this for the kids.
Keeping us honest. Keeping us honest.
But think about how his brain works. Some people's brain operates in the function of the set of rules.
Yeah.
And I know every single one of them, and that is if a kid thinks that way, we want to encourage. Call me out on that because we're telling a story, but if that's has a positive benefit to the story, 100%. So I love how some kids don't care about that. Yeah. They want to just write and tell a story about a goblin weaving a dress, and you're just like, yeah, that's great.
Do it, dude. Yeah,
do
absolutely.
it. I love it.
For the goblin ball.
For the goblin ball, yes. I got to have my red dress.
They're very short dresses, but they're still stunning couture nonetheless. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. Look, the bottom line here is I think what you're doing has such value that I mean, honestly, it's not that you're an unchill person, but it's giving you such a nice sense of calm. It's like you're doing stuff that actually matters.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
As we start to kind of wind down here to the end of our drinks, there are a number of pokers that you have in the fire that we actually can't talk about that are incredibly exciting. But I do feel like you've got really cool things ahead of you. What are some of the things that you can talk about that you want to talk about that people? I mean, first off, where can people follow your adventures? Because if you don't want to follow a pro skateboarder turned, comedy sketch artist versus and now
/ dungeon master, / bubbly drinker.
Yeah, exactly. That's your loss, not ours. But where can people follow you? And then more importantly, what's coming up? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Daniel Fissmer, Fissmer. That's all my handles and whatnot. And if you want to see our comedy, a lot of our stuff is on YouTube. That's our older stuff. Just be on the lookout for Kid Cactus, What is Art. We'll be so happy when that is out because that's our labor of love over the last couple of years, and we're super excited for that. Other than that, I just did a music video with a very cool artist called Matt Rose, and he's going to be dropping an album later this year where he's worked on with a bunch of very cool hip hop and rap producers who've worked with a ton of people. His friend came on set who used to be the creative director for Alicia Keys, which was pretty cool, and helped shoot our music video. So be on the lookout for that music video. It's called Black Man, and Matt Rose is awesome. Shout out to him.
He is a hip hop artist himself?
Yes, he is a hip hop artist, hip hop rap, neo soul, all that, anything that Anderson .Paak could be related with in any of those genres. And yeah, check out What is Art, Kid Cactus. My other writing partner, Dylan Amick, we are finishing next week, which is really fun, our feature film about the history of aviation. So that's really fun. And I think that's it. We are developing, there's a cartoon in development.
Okay.
That's the thing we can't really talk about at the moment.
Save that for next time.
We'll save that for next time.
Potentially involving someone who you definitely know.
Yes. Me, maybe, someone else. I don't know. Who is it? We'll find out.
It's Bill Gates. It's Bill Gates. He's going to, it's his starring debut.
Bill Gates and Elon Musk have funded us to write an AI cartoon about... I'm going to stop.
About nerds that take over the world.
So, yeah, we do have some other very fun stuff coming out. But, yeah, check out the music video. Check out What is Art. And, yeah, just any of that stuff. Kid Cactus is on the move. And other than that, we're just going to keep creating like we always do.
That's the title of your next feature. Kid Cactus. It's like a newsreel. Kid Cactus is on the move.
Kid Cactus is on the move. Batman arrives at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Dude, I don't even know where it started, but years and years ago, we started calling each other you dummy for some reason or another, and it just always stuck, and I love it so much.
That's the last thing I'll say on the podcast. I can tell you exactly where that came from.
Where did it come from? I don't even know.
So it came from, and I will say this, I'll end it on an endearing note. Shane is actually, Chase, I don't know if you know this, definitely a huge portion why I'm out here creating, because he moved out to LA when he was right after school, and it was like, oh yeah, you can move to LA and be successful. And I always viewed my cousin as a success, truly. It takes a lot of courage to move out of your hometown and go to the coast. So, but I will tell you exactly where this thing, we'll call each other, him and my older sister.
Ariel.
Hey,
Shout out to Ariel.
Shout out to Ariel, the dummy.
The OG dummy?
The OG dummy.
We're going to see where this story goes because I don't remember now.
And we're in my basement in Virginia, and we're playing Mario Party 2 or 3 on the N64, which kids, you got to go back and play.
Yeah.
And there's this game called Sneak and Snore where you're like, you walk forward in a barrel, and if your head pops out, and then a little chain link looks behind, and if you don't hide in your barrel quick enough, this chain link eats you and takes you out. And we're I think Shane's probably like 13 and I'm 9 or something around then. And every time that chain link somebody would not have their head in the barrel, we would just start howling, be like, "You dummy! You didn't get caught!" And so for the rest of the time, we're just calling you dummy.
You dummy.
And that's it. So I appreciate you both. Chase, thank you for having me. Shane, you dummy.
Yeah, I love you. I love you dummy.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I love you both.
That's going to wrap it up for us on 2 Drink Maximum. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please follow us anywhere podcasts are found. We're out there. We're also on Instagram, aren't we, Chase?
Yes, we are on Instagram at 2 Drink Maximum. That's TWODRINK Maximum. Pretty easy to find.
Spell that one off the top of your head.
Well, the big thing is TWO. A lot of people are searching the number and they haven't been able to find us.
Yeah, I see.
So TWO spelled out Drink Maximum. We'd also like to thank the Muse Rooms for providing us recording space today. It's a really wonderful place to film.
Great creative space for a co-working environment. Please check them out, themuserooms.com.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time. Cheers, everybody.
Sayonara.